She was ruthlessly humiliated at Beverly Hills' most exclusive boutique, treated like an intruder for daring to appear ordinary among diamonds and silk. When her billionaire husband emerged from the shadows, the air in the room froze. What followed wasn't just revenge. It was a lesson in power that no one would ever forget. The Diamond exclusive boutique on Rodeo Drive gleamed under crystal chandeliers, where Beverly Hills elite gathered among glass cases housing treasures few could afford. The air was perfumed with privilege, soft music barely masking the whispers of those who believed wealth was character. Emily Reynolds stood quietly near an emerald display, her simple jeans and white blouse layered under a light beige cardigan, with subtle wear at the elbows. A comfortable favorite she hadn't thought to change after spending the morning in her garden sanctuary. She had come seeking the perfect sapphire brooch for Catherine's 70th birthday tomorrow, a milestone celebration for the woman who had welcomed Emily with open arms, saying, "I see the person, not the circumstances," on the very first day they met. The vintage watch on her wrist, her only adornment, was Catherine's own gift to her, carrying more history than the entire room could comprehend. "To remind you that true worth is recognized by those who matter," Catherine had said when presenting it, long before Alexander's real estate investments transformed their lives. "Is she lost?" Margaret Chen, the boutique manager, murmured to Brooke Prescott, who clutched her crocodile handbag tighter. "The cleaning service doesn't arrive until after hours." Margaret approached with a practiced smile. "Ma'am, perhaps you might be more comfortable at the mall down the street. These pieces start at 5 figures. Emily responded with dignified calm, her eyes revealing nothing of her thoughts. What these women couldn't possibly know was that their carefully cultivated superiority was about to crumble before an unseen tide. Emily's request to see the sapphire brooch struck Margaret like a personal affront. The manager tilted her head, her eyes narrowing almost imperceptibly, like a predator assessing prey. "You want to see this particular piece?" Margaret's eyebrow arched so high, it nearly vanished into her hairline. "It's part of our Azure collection, quite the investment. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding about the caliber of our establishment." The way she emphasized investment was a silent weapon, designed to slice through Emily's dignity like a sharpened blade. In the boutique's coded language, she was saying, "People like you clean these displays, not shop from them." "Yes, that one." Emily's voice remained steady, her posture upright. "The sapphires match my mother-in-law, Catherine's eyes perfectly. It's for her 70th birthday tomorrow." Margaret exchanged glances with Brooke, whose lips curved into a smirk. The silent communication carried years of practiced snobbery, the language of exclusion perfected in the country clubs and charity galas. "I suppose we could make an exception," Margaret sighed dramatically, words flowing like poisoned honey. "Though I must warn you, touching damages the pieces. Skin oils from certain hands can be particularly problematic." "Fascinating how some people selectively apply that rule," Emily observed calmly. "I noticed you didn't mention skin oils to the woman in Valentino examining the emeralds. My mother-in-law Catherine taught me to notice such inconsistencies." A flash of irritation crossed Margaret's face. This wasn't the meek acceptance she expected. As Margaret reluctantly retrieved the brooch, Brooke circled closer, her designer heels clicking against the marble like a clock, ticking down the seconds to complete humiliation. "Shopping for your employer?" Brooke asked, voice dripping with contempt. "Or did someone send their little errand girl? People of your station should know that household staff typically send catalogs for approval first." Emily turned to her with a measured gaze. "The certitude with which you categorize strangers is remarkable. I wonder if it's because classifying others as beneath you is the only way to sustain your own fragile identity. It must be lonely building your entire life around exclusion." Brooke's smile faltered, color rising to her cheeks. She took an instinctive step back, suddenly uncertain. The silence in the boutique became oppressive, like heavy air before a storm. Two women by the scarf display whispered behind manicured hands, their eyes darting toward Emily with curious reassessment. Margaret returned, holding the brooch as if it might shatter at the slightest touch. "This is priced at $42,500. She didn't place it in Emily's outstretched hand, instead holding it just beyond reach. "Perhaps I could show you our costume jewelry collection. We have some lovely replicas that are more..." accessible. What truly requires level, Margaret, is the ability to see value beyond the superficial, Emily replied, her voice soft yet penetrating. I wonder how it feels to wake up each day knowing your job is to feed the insecurities of people who confuse price with worth. Is that fulfilling? Margaret's professional mask slipped momentarily, revealing a flicker of discomfort. She recovered quickly, but her hand holding the brooch trembled slightly. I believe you're in the wrong establishment, she said tightly. I'll have to ask you to leave. You know what I've noticed? Emily said, her calm undisturbed. People who base their entire value on brands and appearances are often the first to crumble when they lose those symbols. It must be exhausting to live with the same judgment you so freely impose on others. Security, Margaret called sharply, no longer maintaining her veneer of politeness. The security guard appeared, tall, imposing, apologetic. Ma'am, I'll have to ask you to leave the premises. Emily felt the sting of public rejection wash over her. The sapphire brooch, the perfect gift for the woman who had shown her nothing but unconditional love, now seemed miles beyond reach. How ironic that she'd come with such care and thoughtfulness to find a gift symbolizing genuine connection, only to be deemed unworthy of even standing in this temple of superficiality. As the guard stepped toward her, Emily touched Catherine's watch on her wrist, drawing strength from what it represented. She took a deep breath, preparing to exit with the dignity Catherine had taught her to maintain even in the face of cruelty. That's when she felt it, the electric shift in the atmosphere, the near imperceptible straightening of the security guard's posture, the sudden silence that fell across the boutique like a heavy curtain. Someone new had entered the scene. He appeared like a shift in atmospheric pressure, sudden, undeniable, profound. The boutique fell silent mid-breath. Alexander Reynolds stood motionless at the threshold, his presence commanding the space without a single word spoken. His tailored navy suit spoke of understated wealth, but it was the intensity in his steel blue eyes that arrested every person in the room. I believe you're asking my wife to leave. His voice was quiet, but carried to every corner of the hushed boutique. The simple declaration, my wife, sent an electric current through the room. Faces flickered with shock as the devastating revelation registered. The security guard noticed him first, his professional demeanor crumbling instantly. Mr. Reynolds, sir? Alexander raised one finger slightly, barely a gesture, yet it silenced the man instantly. Margaret continued her dismissal of Emily, unaware of the seismic shift behind her. As I was saying, we reserve the right to refuse. Do you? Two simple words, spoken barely above a whisper, yet they sliced through the boutique's atmosphere like lightning. Alexander hadn't moved, hadn't raised his voice, hadn't done anything but exist in the doorway. Yet the effect was immediate, power radiating from him in invisible waves. Recognition dawned on Margaret's face, not just of who he was, but of the catastrophic miscalculation she had made in humiliating his wife. Color drained from her cheeks as her lips formed a perfect O of horror. Mr. Reynolds, she stammered, the practiced confidence evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. What an unexpected pleasure. He stepped forward, one deliberate step that somehow felt like an advancing storm. The crowd parted unconsciously, creating a path as he moved toward the display case. No one spoke. Breathing seemed an intrusion. The sapphire brooch. His voice remained conversational, making the tension more unbearable. May I see it? Margaret's hands shook visibly as she unlocked the case, extracting the velvet box she'd denied Emily moments before. Alexander didn't reach for it. Instead, his gaze found Emily, softening imperceptibly. Is this the one you wanted for Mother's birthday, my love? That tender question, mentioning his mother amid the electric tension, created a stark contrast that hung in the air. The reference to family, to Catherine Reynolds, seemed to add another dimension to his already commanding presence. As Alexander slowly reached inside his suit jacket, the entire boutique held its breath. No one could predict that his next gesture would leave Margaret and Brooke utterly humiliated, a fortune scattered at their feet, and become a story whispered about in Beverly Hills for years to come. Alexander held the velvet box in his hand, studying the sapphire brooch briefly. The boutique remained suspended in silence. $42,500. His voice carried through the stillness, repeating the price Margaret had emphasized to Emily. "That's what you value." Without further ceremony, Alexander reached inside his suit jacket and removed a sleek leather wallet. He began extracting crisp $100 bills, counting them with deliberate precision that heightened the tension with each bill added to the stack. Margaret's smile froze, a brittle mask cracking at the edges. Brooke had edged backward, her earlier boldness evaporated. When he'd counted the full amount, Alexander held the thick stack for a moment. His gaze swept across the boutique, meeting every pair of eyes. "The world is changing," he said, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner. "Those who judge others by appearance rather than character will find themselves increasingly isolated. My wife chooses simplicity not out of necessity, but wisdom, a lesson my mother taught us both. This," he continued, holding up the money, "is what you value. This determines worth in your eyes. How empty that must feel." Then, without warning, he let the money fall. The bills scattered across the polished marble floor, some sliding under display cases, others settling like fallen leaves around Margaret's designer heels. The sound was soft but final, paper meeting stone in a whisper that somehow spoke volumes. No command followed, no instruction to pick up the money, no further humiliation demanded. The profound statement had been made. Alexander simply turned his back on the scattered fortune, offering his arm to Emily with a gentle smile that transformed his severe features. The contrast between how he looked at his wife and how he had regarded everyone else in the room told its own powerful story. The boutique remained frozen in collective shock as the money lay untouched on the marble floor, a physical manifestation of how hollow wealth becomes when separated from basic human decency. Emily watched without satisfaction or grief, her expression reflective. She had never wanted revenge, only to be seen as the person she was rather than the clothes she wore, just as Catherine had always seen her. Her fingers brushed the vintage watch on her wrist, drawing strength from what it represented. The scattered money on the floor was not just a personal vindication, but a mirror held up to a system built on superficial judgment. Margaret and Brooke stood frozen, their carefully cultivated veneers of superiority shattered by the simple act. No one moved to pick up the money. No one dared to break the spell that had fallen over the boutique. "Shall we, my love? Mother's birthday gift awaits." Alexander extended his hand to Emily, his voice gentle, a stark contrast to the power he had just displayed. Emily placed her hand in his, their fingers intertwining in a gesture of partnership that spoke volumes. No grand proclamations of her worth were needed. The silent strength of their connection said everything. As they walked toward the door with unhurried dignity, the sound of their footsteps echoed against the marble floor. Neither looked back at the money or the people. The statement had been made. The young saleswoman who had hesitated to call security earlier caught Emily's eye for just a moment. A silent understanding passed between them, a recognition that systems can change when brave people refuse to participate in cruelty. With quiet confidence, they departed, leaving behind a boutique forever transformed, not by the spectacle of wealth displayed, but by the quiet dignity of two people who understood that true value had nothing to do with price tags. If you're enjoying this powerful story of dignity and justice, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. You'll never miss our new uploads of inspiring stories that remind us all of our inherent worth, regardless of appearances. Every subscription helps us continue sharing these transformative tales. Now, let's return to Emily and Alexander's story. Golden afternoon light bathed Catherine Reynolds' elegant garden as family gathered to celebrate her 70th birthday. Emily stood nervously before her mother-in-law, holding a small velvet box. "I hope you like it," Emily said softly, presenting the sapphire brooch that had caused such turmoil just days before. Catherine's eyes, the exact shade of the sapphires, widened with delight. "It's exquisite, dear." As she pinned it to her dress, Catherine noticed Emily's expression. "Something happened when you bought this, didn't it?" Emily glanced at Alexander, who nodded encouragingly. "Let's just say some people at the boutique couldn't see beyond appearances." Catherine's knowing smile reflected wisdom earned through decades. "The same happened when I first brought Alexander's father to my family's home. The butler tried to direct him to the service entrance. This revelation surprised Emily. I never knew that. Because it ultimately didn't matter, Catherine said, taking Emily's hands. What matters is recognizing true worth when you see it. That's why you belong in this family. You've always had that gift. Later, as guests mingled in the garden, Catherine approached the couple. Jessica called about a position with your community garden program, she said to Emily, the young woman from the boutique. Emily smiled. Sometimes the most beautiful transformations come from uncomfortable moments. Catherine touched her new brooch thoughtfully. The true value of any object isn't in its price, she said, but in the growth it inspires. As sunset cast long shadows across the garden, Emily watched Alexander helping his mother greet guests, the sapphires at her neck catching the fading light. In a world designed to separate people by what they owned, they had created something far more valuable. A family defined by how they saw and uplifted others. If this story of dignity prevailing over judgment resonated with you, please consider supporting our channel by clicking the subscribe button and notification bell below. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these powerful tales of justice and transformation that remind us all of our inherent worth. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Share your city and state in the comments. It's always heartwarming to see how our community spans across the country and beyond. Your presence here matters to us. Now, take a moment to reflect. How many times have you been judged unfairly based on your appearance or circumstances? How many times have you perhaps judged others the same way? In a world increasingly divided by status symbols and social media facades, Emily and Alexander's story reminds us that genuine power lies not in humiliating others, but in standing firm in your values even when the world tries to diminish you. Every day we face small moments where we can choose to see beyond appearances, the elderly neighbor who needs assistance, the casually dressed stranger with hidden talents, the newcomer hesitantly joining a community event. These seemingly insignificant interactions are where real change happens, in our willingness to extend dignity to everyone we meet, regardless of what they can offer us in return. Please share this video with someone who might need this reminder today. In the comments, tell us about a maternal figure in your life who taught you to see beyond appearances, someone like Catherine who recognized your true worth when others didn't. Did you have a mother, grandmother, or mentor who saw the real you? Until next time, remember, true value isn't found in price tags or appearances, but in how we honor each other's humanity and nurture meaningful family bonds. Those connections, like Emily and Catherine's, are the true treasures no boutique could ever sell. Thank you for watching.